Welcome to episode 1 of The Hive is Alive, a digital marketing podcast from the Apiary Digital Media Collective. My name is Tess and I will be your podcast host. Each month on the podcast, we will have a new episode discussing a developing topic relevant to digital marketing. For our first episode, I spoke with Karen Edmondson, founder of Apiary Digital, to discuss a bit about the advertising offering, Amazon Marketing Services. Okay, I am on the phone with Karen from Apiary Digital Media Collective, and I'm going to let Karen, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Karen Amundsen, founder of Apiary Digital. We are a collective of experienced independent digital marketing professionals, and we curate teams for our clients to help them grow customer acquisition.
And today, for our inaugural episode, we're going to be talking about Amazon Marketing Services. Karen is actually going to be interviewing me for today's episode to talk about Amazon.
Yeah, excited to be getting to interview you today. Would love it if you could just give us a little bit of an overview about AMS and ways you can market on Amazon, and if you could just kind of give us the high level.
Yeah, absolutely. Amazon marketing started around 2012, and there are 3 different types of Amazon marketing available. The first one is AMG, which stands for Amazon Media Group. This is a dedicated team within Amazon, and they sell display ads through the Amazon advertising platform, and also ads that show up on Kindle Fires and things like that. And that's handled just within Amazon, and it has pretty high minimums to get involved. It's bought typically a bit more like traditional media. The second group is Seller Central. This is a bit smaller. Anyone who's selling a product on Amazon can buy into these ads, and it's really just a product display ad. It functions very similar to Google Shopping, pulling from your product feed. And then the one that we're going to get into today, and the one that's kind of getting a lot of attention and growing recently, is Amazon Marketing Services. So Amazon Marketing Services functions similar to AdWords. This is where you can do keyword targeting, category targeting, and these are the ads that show up within search results within Amazon. And sellers from really huge name brands to pretty small brands are working on there, as long as you have a vendor central setup and login with Amazon already.
Just to give us kind of a ballpark, in the context of AMS or Amazon Marketing Services, what is kind of a spend of a large client versus a small client in this context?
The thing about Amazon for Amazon Marketing Services is that whatever money you have, you seem to be able to spend it within Amazon. The CPCs are pretty low and average, so you could have a pretty small daily budget. I've seen campaigns from big brands with $100 a day and they're still moving product, but you can spend as much as $30K in a month depending on your vertical. It really spans a pretty wide range.
And that to me actually sounds really low relative to pay-per-click advertising in general. I mean, you think about some of these brands that might be spending $30K a month. Sounds like they might be the same guys spending, $1 million a month in AdWords or something, for example.
Absolutely. And I think that gets into the fact that it's a growing platform for ads specifically. Looking at other platforms like Google and Facebook and their ad revenue, the fact that Amazon is fairly new and starting to grow, and they haven't really marketed much of the fact that they have this advertising capability. I think a lot of brands are starting with test budgets or really minimal always-on campaigns, and it hasn't yet become the focus of many brands.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting comparison. And I guess when you look at where the more mature platforms like AdWords and Facebook, where they were when they were in their infancy, do you see Amazon kind of, or AMS on a similar trajectory of growth as, or, do you think 10 years from now this is going to be like the next AdWords or Facebook, or how would you be thinking about this?
I think it definitely has the ability to be nearly as big. They are really pushing to become kind of the behemoth of e-commerce. They put a lot of their money and focus in customer relationships. So the big draw for brands to use Amazon is that there's a huge market. So there's 300 million active monthly users on Amazon. So the volume is there, but Amazon really hasn't put in the effort like Facebook and Google have, developing their ad platform and making it easy for brands to get on the platform, learn how to buy, quickly launch their ads, and get understandings of their return. Amazon just hasn't put the effort into that yet. So I think depending on the moves they make in the next months as they continue to roll this out will really make an impact on how much they're going to make in ad sales.
Well, and that says a lot right there, that they haven't really invested in the ad platform and the advertiser experience. And, they haven't made it easy for people to spend money on Amazon. And yet they've already gotten traction in the billions. And there's so much more room for them to take a slice of the pie. Can you talk a little bit more? I mean, it sounds like obviously the 300 million monthly active users is a compelling reason to be there, be where your customers are. But can you talk about some of the other benefits of why advertisers would want to use AMS?
Yeah, I think the biggest benefit is that it's pretty bottom of the funnel. So, in terms of keyword targeting, you can have a pretty limited brand keyword list and still see a lot of movement. The brands I've worked with doing on off tests to see whether we would have gotten, if it's all brand search and it's bottom funnel, are the ads really going to help people purchase, or are they going to purchase anyway from my listing without having to pay? And we did see that the ads did increase the overall conversions and revenue for some brands that I've worked on before. So I think that brands are seeing higher returns by advertising. I think it just really comes down to that it's just working for brands and they're making money and pushing more product.
Yeah, and that's a pretty compelling reason. I think when I look at, the AMS platform, one thing that stands out to me relative to previous ad platforms that came out, you look at something like when Google Shopping came out, that used to be an organic search, product listing, and you didn't even have to pay per click. And now we're in this much more competitive landscape where not only is this a pay per click play, but then you have to consider, well, then advertisers are also then once someone makes a purchase, they're paying a small fee to Amazon as well. So they're getting that kind of upfront pay per click cost and then the back end cost when someone makes a purchase from their Amazon site. So it's a great model for Amazon.
Yeah, I believe there's two different ways that you can sell on Amazon. One is a monthly subscription of about $40 for a vendor, and the other, Amazon charges $1 per product that you sell. And so they're not making much of their money in terms of making brands be able to sell their products through their platform. I think they're starting to really realize that you make money through selling ads, and they're trying to catch up with their services. The other thing I wanted to mention as a draw for why a brand would purchase ads specifically on Amazon is that if you're not there bidding on your own brand terms, your competitors are probably there bidding on your brand terms. One thing about the Amazon platform that makes it difficult for brands and strategists like us to create campaigns is that there's no keyword tool or help that you can get from Amazon that helps you develop your campaign and know what people are searching for. They've introduced now that if you put in a keyword, they tell you whether it's low, medium, or high volume. But that's more directional than the stats we're used to getting from Google or Facebook in terms of where our money's going and who we're reaching.
Yeah, and that's a pretty compelling reason, and I like the point you brought up about also how labor intensive it is to get AMS up and running and not having those tools in place that search marketers and media planners are typically used to. I think that's and then with the lower cost per click, you can expect a lower ad spend, but then your labor costs are going to be much higher. And for me personally, as someone who's growing a marketing services company, and probably to a lot of folks out there who are building their in-house marketing teams, et cetera, one of the big questions is how much do we invest in AMS talent, and what's the longevity of that? Because Amazon being a tech company, does it seem likely that they're just going to automate everything? And what's the need now in terms of building out talent? And what do you see the outlook in a couple of years from now?
I hope they get it automated pretty quickly, because as someone who's been working in search and social advertising for a few years, I've only seen what's been available since Google Analytics could crunch a bunch of numbers super fast and make all these insights available to you pretty quickly, to the point where you can spend most of your time creating strategies and understanding patterns and behaviors. But from my experience with Amazon, the capability of reporting is very, very small. They do not have any trended data charts available. Can't look at your data from a certain time span. So you can't just see, for instance, last week's performance. You can't do any of that within the dashboard. What you have to do is download all the reports individually in order to look at everything and then house that data on your own. And one of the biggest problems right now is that Amazon purges all of their data after 60 days. So if you have an always-on campaign, you have to be continuously downloading your data, housing it somewhere where your Excel isn't constantly crashing, in order to have those results to look back on and to optimize your campaigns. It's also really interesting because they don't have any automated bulk editing. So when you go in, you have to manually change things. So I can see where brands don't have the bandwidth on their teams for someone to just up and learn this whole platform. It's a pretty steep barrier to entry.
Yeah, that sounds like a very large labor investment to get in there. I mean, it sounds like what you're talking about, no bulk functionality. That to me means you're one by one editing bids on every single keyword. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, absolutely. And you have to download every single day of data individually. It makes it kind of hard to get up to date spend results. It's also interesting because they don't have campaign type. It's really just your ad campaign and your products, and you can't group those in any larger sense. And I know that as a best practice, Amazon ads perform better when you have your campaigns split out as minutely as possible, just breaking down your products into as small a categories as possible. So you end up with a lot of campaigns. And to do all of that manually, it's a lot of work.
So given the amount of work, let's talk about the potential upside a little bit more. And, is it worth it? What kind of performance and return have you seen from clients in the past?
The brands I've worked on, we saw that Amazon was the best return on ad spend. Because those CPCs are still pretty low, competition is there, but it's not as high as somewhere like Google where people have been on for a long time. And because of that high barrier to entry, it also means there are somewhat fewer people bidding. I think the other thing too is that, especially for your conquesting campaigns, it's also really good impression value because there's not much going on those pages in terms of other forms of competition. There's really only like one competitor showing up on a product page. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there.
Yeah. So some things that stand out to me are, yeah, exactly that. Brands looking to do some conquesting competitor campaigns, market share takeover, and just willing to invest effort in order to get the return versus willing to invest budget to get the return. Can you talk a little bit more about what kind of clients you think are a great fit for AMS and clients where you would steer them away that maybe they're not ready or it's not a good fit?
I think clients, especially during holiday seasons or big promotional pushes, when you have product to sell and say you're a marketing manager and you have a use it or lose it budget and you just have to put it somewhere, if you're already selling on Vendor Central, setting up a brand campaign and a non-brand campaign is a great way to spend your money and still be pretty certain that you're going to get a good return on it. And then I would steer away clients who very strictly need to know their return. Like if your manager really needs to know the exact return on your platform, that's going to be something that's a little bit difficult to get out of Amazon. There was a time where your sales and your reporting included sales for third-party resellers in addition to sales directly from your brand. So that made it really difficult to figure out exactly what we were getting back out of the platform.
Well, it sounds like given some of these limitations, advertisers should really be thinking about this as truly as a test budget at this point still, and have low expectations about the level of visibility and kind of knowing directionally that it's performing above target, but maybe not, having really clear specifics.
Yeah, I think so. It's interesting. You don't really know what's happening on the platform, but you know that you're getting a return. That's pretty much what I've learned on what I've worked on so far with the test budgets I've handled.
It sounds like an exciting adventure.
Yeah.
Can you speak to some of the targeting capabilities?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are 3 ad units available within Amazon Marketing Services, or AMS. And those focus on keyword or categories. So the first two ad units are headline search ads, which are the ones that show up right at the top of a search results page. Then there are sponsored product ads, and those are the ones that show up where it's a product listing in the feed that's sponsored. And those are keyword based. So you can have a non-brand campaign, a brand campaign, and a competitor campaign is some structures I've done before. The third ad unit is a product display ad, and this is targeted based on, you can do it actually based on a competitor or a different product. So it could be a cross-sell, or it could be a competitor's product to do some conquesting, or you can target based on category or interest. So you can mark, for instance, you can click into like health and beauty, and then go down to the subcategory of, I think soap and hygiene products or something like that. However, Amazon categorizes different products. You can bid on that category in that vertical, and then your ads will show up on product pages for pages within that category, which is a great way, I think, to have a way to purchase so you can talk to people in that interest category in a pretty broad way, something kind of parallel to do a little bit more impression-based ad serving.
Great. Is there anything else about Amazon and AMS that you want listeners to know?
One thing I do want people to know is we've talked a lot about the reporting issues. Amazon has partnered with the platform Kenshu. It's a place that you can centralize your reporting and do some of that bulk uploading and understanding of monitoring your data. And you can do some more quick data crunching through their platform, but they have platform minimums and it's an added cost.
Cool.
Thank you for joining us on our first episode to discuss AMS advertising. We will continue bringing you new episodes on such topics as messenger ads, intelligent tracking, and much more. If you have thoughts about Amazon Marketing Services, or if there's a topic in digital marketing you'd like to hear discussed on a future episode, please reach out to us. We are on Twitter at Apiary Digital, or you can email us at podcast@apiarydigital.com. And don't forget to subscribe to the show on your preferred podcast streaming service. The Hive is Alive is produced by Apiary Digital Media Collective. Editing help from Holly Hilton. Our podcast is produced by Karnika Harados, myself, Tess Berry, and Karen Admonson. We look forward to seeing you next episode, and we'll see you around the water cooler.